Welcome to the Wednesday, May 28th, 2025, 6:15 p.m. remote participation meeting for the Ayer Affordable Housing Trust. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, OML, public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. The meeting of the Ayer Affordable Housing Trust will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID 818-0509-7403 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Alicia Hersey at ahersey@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 142 prior to the meeting. And so the meeting's been called to order. We do have a quorum, and I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Cindy. Do we have a second? Thank you, Sean. If we look at the agenda, we have a repetitive item. FY26 budget proposal exists on it twice. So if it's okay with you all, we'll only handle that. We'll take that topic on once. Is that okay with
Yes.
people? Okay.
Oh,
With that
sorry.
adjustment, I'm going to go and do whatchamacallit squares. Bob, how do you vote? Bob has a thumbs up for aye. Sean, how do you vote?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Excuse me. Thank you. And the chair votes aye. I've got a frog in my throat. Okay. Next on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes from 4/30/2025. May we have a motion, please?
I'll make a
I
motion.
can't move it, guys.
a motion
Sean
to-
moves it. Yes. Thank you, Sean.
Minutes from 4:30.
And do we have a second? I'll second it. So moved and seconded. First of all, thank you very much, Cindy, for putting these together. I have one question.
Yep.
And so this is time to discuss the minutes before. If you jump down, it's the 7th paragraph on the page. It begins with SC is looking for financial support from the town.
I don't have it in front of me. Hold on.
Okay, so I can pull it up, maybe.
No, it's
Yeah.
fine. Go ahead.
The wording in the second sentences, they are also asking for a property tax agreement with the town that would lock in at the 2025 rate for a defined period of time to be TBD, to be determined. They're actually asking, I believe, for the 2025 assessment, not the tax rate, but the value of the property.
All right, hold on. Where are you?
It's the second to last full paragraph on the page, above where it says adjournment of AAHC at 7:55.
You're asking for, okay, yep.
2025 assessment, not rate.
Oh, okay. I could change that. Why didn't you tell me before?
Is SC supposed to be DC?
No,
No,
Oh, okay, sorry.
Shockett. Shockett.
yeah, no,
Oh,
Shockett was
Got
asking
it.
for that. Yes, so that's correct.
Okay.
And I
So,
indicated that up ahead.
yeah,
So-
exactly. No, be honest with you, I saw that the first time I read it, and thank you for getting these out again. It just didn't occur to me to drop it into Word and send it off to you. I apologize. I had an interesting couple of weeks with other stuff going on.
So
So,
it's assessment
Yeah,
instead
assessment.
of rate. Okay,
Yeah.
I could change that, no problem.
Thank you. Otherwise, I have no other recommendations for changes. I don't know if anybody else does.
All right, well, just don't post that until I
No.
send you the
No.
update.
Yeah, and I've got to go sign it anyway before it gets posted. So, and I'll probably get to that in the next day or two if Alicia and I can find a moment to do it. So with that change, I'd take a vote on accepting the minutes. Bob, you're first up. How do you vote?
I abstained because I wasn't at the meeting, so I can't.
Okay. Thank you. Sean?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you very much. Okay, Alicia. You want to do the budget proposal now or after the ARAP and do it then? Excuse me.
So I sent just today, I don't
Yeah.
know if everybody got it with the link to the state of our finances.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull
Um,
it up for us, okay? Give me a moment
That
while
would
you
be
start
great.
talking. Yeah. And thank you for sending that today.
And the proposal is basically, we've already voted to spend 72,000 on the um project year, it's project year 25.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the current year that we're in for the rental assistance. So we got approved at town meeting,
Yeah.
our
So hopefully y'all can see,
200,000,
hopefully you
but
can
it
see the
is
email.
not going to
Yeah.
go in
Sorry,
until
we got approved for what? I'm sorry.
we got at town meeting CPC funds for 200,000, a new 200,000, but that is not yet in the bank account because it won't go into the bank account until July. Because that's a fiscal year
Right.
approval. So, but this is Alicia's way of putting together a budget, it's not a budget, but
Mhm.
just a statement of where we are financially. So you
Mhm.
see what has come in so far to the account. And I'm just
That
gonna,
is the 30,000, 60,000, and 200,000 this year.
yes. And so
Plus, plus interest.
200,000 last year and another 200,000 pending. So when
Yes.
you put all of that together, you're at 491,250 that's come
Mhm.
in.
Yep.
Our commitments that we've made and some of it has been spent, some of it hasn't. So you can
Mhm.
see what our commitments are and what has been spent so far. So
Mhm.
available after July 1st will be 251, 818,000.
Mhm.
We have made commitments. You see the 491 and we made commitments of 240. What we have in the bank account right now is 121, 927.
Mhm.
$121,927. Okay,
Exactly. Mhm.
so we have available, but we haven't put anything aside for administration or to do an audit this year. And
Mhm.
I'm assuming an audit, a one-year audit is going to cost us $4,000. Now, the question is whether when we're just getting CPC money and the CPC money is being audited every year by the town, we haven't done this. We would need to change the bylaws to say that to to not do an audit. So we do need to spend that $4,000 to do another audit.
Mhm.
So I guess the budget I'm asking for is maybe to put aside 5,000 for administration and to continue with our commitment of 72,000 for rental assistance.
Mhm.
Any questions?
Yeah, let me open it up to the board. So I think we got two things going on right now, guys. We have money promised to us and money in the account, and we need to set aside a contingency amount for the audit this year. Now, the first audit was 6,000, which covered us for the first couple of years, but excuse me, I believe in chatting with the auditor, $5,000 is a comfortable amount of money to put aside for that admin piece. Is that correct, Alicia?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments from anybody on the trust before we open it up?
Was that 5,000 or 4,000? I'm sorry.
It's fourth. Well, he did not commit to what he would do it for. They did it as a favored. They did 3 years, but he said 3,000 would not be what they would pay for a year. It would be 3 or 4. He wasn't clear, so I haven't gotten an estimate.
So you want us to set aside 4?
Well, I was just going to set aside 5 for any other
Fine.
outstanding
Okay, thank you. That's
administ
all I needed to know. Just
Yeah.
what did you say?
for administration, just in
Okay.
general for administration.
So are you suggesting, Alicia, that we change our bylaws to eliminate the need for audits or?
Not to eliminate the need for audits altogether. I think audits are very important,
Yes,
but we have minimal money going in and out of this account. and the town, and it's an account run by the town. So it gets audited by the town audit.
Yeah.
It's also money only coming from CPC, which gets audited by the town audit. So when we're doing is dispersing CPC money, and we're not getting any other funds in out to exterior, funds not CPC. The question is, could the board make the choice to not do an audit that year?
And Bob, let me add a point here. It is ultimately, we believe we may get funding from other sources, grant funding and stuff like that. And that may actually generate the need to have an audit done outside of what the town auditor currently does, what Barbara does in her work as a treasurer. And we don't own any assets yet, and those would be an important part of the audit because, as you know, assets have value and that value changes and they have expenses and stuff like that. But in the current mode we're in, it's a fairly simple financial report. And we're trying to get away. The money's audited. The money goes through audits coming to us from another town entity. And then the town's books are reviewed by the Commonwealth. And so having somebody do it outside is required by our bylaw. And that's why we did it, but we incurred a charge of $6,000 to get caught up. So I don't think we would change our bylaw to say all audits in the future would be internal. I think as we currently stand, it seems to be a belt and suspenders approach that may be costing, a $6,000 charge. That's a family for a year in the rental assistance program.
Yeah, so
it's a discussion we have to have soon. Yeah.
So what you're suggesting is we set aside $5,000 for administrative costs, but we might not spend that money? Is that what you're
Oh,
suggesting?
no,
Exactly.
we'll have to spend it this year. We have not changed that bylaw. We might not have to spend it the year after if we choose to change the bylaw, which gives you discretion over whether an audit has to happen or not.
Yeah. And if I may, Bob, I think the question you're also asking is if the audit comes in at 3,500 instead of $5,000, we budgeted for it and the money, the 1,500 is ours to use elsewhere.
No,
But
I
we
get
have to
that.
identify it. Huh?
I get that, but
Good.
it seems to me that we don't have outside funding right now. We're being audited in every which way through the CPC, through the town. So it seems like if anything, this is the time to maybe modify the bylaw to allow us to have the discretion to to audit or not.
And that's
What I'm
exactly where we
saying?
were going in the conversation last year, Bob, before we had you joining us on a regular basis. So,
All right.
and I think that's at this point, we've seen the money in front of us. So ultimately, what would happen is the bank balance would go down by $5,000 to 117,927.19 roughly,
No, we
and then
just would show a
200,000
commitment.
and as a commitment, and then $200,000 comes in July. So that goes from 117,927 to 317,927 in round figures. There's interest. We're accruing interest in some other stuff also, but it's not a lot of money. It's just really what it comes down to is we write checks to landlords, and sometimes we don't have a full boat of people who need a check every month because people come in and out of the program. So, but that's where we currently stand. Any other questions from people on the trust right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, please.
Since we brought up the possibility of changing a bylaw or whatever, is there a way that we change it so it stipulates that the only way that an audit is triggered is if there is an outside funding source? Otherwise, as long as it's a single source, the town, we can skip audits.
Ray.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that, but it is a conversation that Alicia and Barbara Tierney and myself have kind of had around the edges right now, Sean. But I think we would turn to Barbara and say, what would be the recommendation of the town treasurer? Because ultimately the books have to go through her hands or the treasurer's hands before they go to the Commonwealth.
All right, can we have that on our next meeting agenda?
Yep. Yep.
So you get it done sooner rather than later.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I'm writing my down a to-do.
Yeah, me too. No, thank you, Sean.
Alicia, I have a quick question that you could probably answer. I sent a message to Robert, never heard back from him. But the IDFA, which has been dormant for years now, what about all that money that's a big pot of money that's sitting there? Is that what happened to that? Where is it
So
going?
this is a kind of side discussion, but if everybody's okay, I'm going to answer this question.
Go ahead.
We have a new economic development director coming in 1st of July. She was approved at the last Board of Selectmen. Sean can even speak to this meeting. And I think that they're going to be looking at the IDFA and the direction they want it to go. And Bob, I think you're still on the IDFA, correct?
As far as I know, but we haven't met in years now. So,
Yes. And and she's actually very excited about the possibilities of what can happen. But there's also been internal discussions within the town about what should be happening with that. So I'll mention to Robert that you were asking, and if you want to reach out again, I would highly encourage you to do that. And
I guess what I'm saying is it feels to me like that is, I know we're going down the wrong direction here, but it feels like that there was less interest in the funds that the IDFA and programs the IDFA offered. And it seems like that money could be well spent in things like affordable housing.
well, and there's a possibility of redirecting some of it, but also something to recognize is when interest rates are high out there, it's a good time for businesses that need a little bit better rate on their loan. There wasn't that many loans made in the last
No,
5, 7 years
right.
because the interest rates were better than what the IDFA was offering sometimes.
All right. I don't want to,
Yeah,
taking it down a rabbit hole. Sorry.
yeah, that's
That's okay. I'm going to ask a quick question. IDFA stands for?
Industrial Development Financing Authority.
Thank you.
And
But
it has
it's
a
just,
pot of about $1 million or more. So
yeah. No, I appreciate that, Bob. It's just we've been warned not to talk in acronyms if we can avoid
you're
it
right.
because we can drop into acronyms real quick and no one knows what we're talking about who comes in and says it. So if there's, excuse me, no other comments from folks on the board, Pauline has had her hand up,
Yep.
and I'd like to ask Pauline what's on your mind.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. I would encourage the Affordable Housing Committee to set up an administration budget. Can you hear me?
Yeah, the trust.
Okay.
Us, yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the trust.
Yeah.
Because there are costs associated with the audit, which I know I'm responsible for raising the issue last year, and I apologize for that. But the statute requires that the towns do a budget, an audit of their budget every year. You can't change that. You cannot limit a statute. You can expand it. So I would suggest just adding enough to your budget so that you can complete the audit without have to ask for more funds. Because we all know the townspeople aren't going to understand a whole lot of this. And I apologize for making this an issue, but please just do what you need to do to keep the housing trust the way it is, because I think it's working. Although we'll see what happens in the next topic on the agenda. So I just share that. All right, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Pauline. And there's a concern here, and I don't know I don't know if any of us know enough about it to put it to bed this evening, but there is a question about CPC funding being spent on administrative tasks, and we do know that it can be done, but when we got into this conversation, finding the auditor, getting the audit done, figuring out the paying for it, we kind of have an open conversation. We have to tie up all the string, we have to tie it all up. But we did need to get it done. We did get permission to use the funds that we had given to us from CPC. And I think that's what Alicia was asking for, is to add the admin line because it's currently not in our budget. And I
Totally
think that's
agree,
exactly,
Jeff. Totally agree with what you're
yeah,
planning. And if you need any additional information, I have buckets full of paperwork.
yeah. Thank you. As a quick aside, I'm just retired, Pauline. I have gotten rid of cases of paperwork. I'm so happy about it. So anyway, thank you.
Congratulations. I still have every piece of paper.
Yeah, so I think the to-do that comes out of this, Alicia, is for us to have a follow-up quick conversation with Barbara Tierney.
Mhm.
And Bob, the sentiment is there. If we can find a way to make it, if we can find a way, without breaking laws or statutes, I think we need to do it. It'd be nice if we could do that. So, okay.
Can I have a quick question? I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
Can we just put this to bed by voting to add the administration line this year to the budget? Because we
Yeah.
already voted on the 72.
So I will move to add an admin amount of $5,000 to our budget.
Second.
Sean will second it. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. Bob, how do you vote?
Wait a minute.
Sorry, Cindy.
Yeah. Say it so I can record it.
Move to create an admin category for $5,000 in our budget. An admin category
you.
and fund it with 5,000.
For our
Thank
FY
you.
26 budget.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Say it again.
Move
Move to
to
create.
create an admin category
Yep.
and fund it with $5,000. And if it's okay with you, I would call it for the upcoming fiscal year.
Yes.
And then it would just go forward.
Yes.
Sean, is that acceptable to you
That is.
for a
Move
second?
to
Okay, great.
create an admin category
Yep,
and fund it
with $5,000
with $5,000.
for the
And
next
not saying
fiscal
who it
year.
comes from.
Yep,
Okay.
You might want to not use admin and call it administrative, just saying.
yes, thank
Well,
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's just me talking.
yep, administrative.
Yep.
Is that still friendly, Sean?
Still friendly.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I just needed I need the words.
I'm glad we had the discussion. I'm dropping into get it done too fast mode, Cindy. Stop me anytime. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Bob, how do you vote?
Yay.
Thank you, Sean.
Yay.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yay.
Thank you. And the chair votes aye. Fantastic. Moving along to the Air Rental Assistance Program update for 25. I'm going to unshare that screen so I can see everybody. There we go. What do you got for us, Alicia?
Oh, so we have 12 people who've been approved and are receiving rental assistance at this point. We had one that was in two people that were in limbo. But we have 12 except getting rental assistance at this point, and it's moving forward. We have one that has been a little bit of a difficulty and cannot move forward, and that is because the unit did not qualify. And there was upsetness about the unit not qualifying. But we do require an inspection by our building inspector because the town does not want to be part of an unsafe unit.
Yeah.
And so, and that's where it is. And that's where we voted from the very beginning of our guidelines. I think that maybe I need to make next year's guidelines a little bit clearer. There was a question whether our building inspector, but he is the safety inspector.
Mhm.
And so it was building and fire inspection I have on all units and they have to pass. And
Yeah.
the interesting thing is most landlords, only twice have I had landlords refuse to make the changes because they weren't required because of grandfathered situations to make the
Yeah.
changes. But most of the time, the landlords are happy to make the changes because they know that their insurance, their liability is much better off if they
Mhm.
do the safety regulations of the town.
Absolutely.
Alicia, that actually, so that brings up something interesting though. These were two units that were legally allowed to, by being grandfathered, they were legally allowed to remain unsafe in some
Yes,
aspect.
yes,
That kind of
yes.
brings up like, is that being unfair of us because the law is allowing them to be rented as
Um,
is? And are
Well,
we
this is
fairly
maybe
treating
something that needs to go to
that?
council because if they're unsafe and there's a fire and there's a death, is this town
Yeah,
liable
right.
knowing it was unsafe?
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what town council would say about like if we're unfairly like eliminating people from our pool of candidates when their unit is still grandfathered in as legal.
What I want to say though is most of landlords come right out and I've had landlords have to go in and do big changes and little changes, and most of them come right out and say, no, we want this to be safe. We want, so they're actually thankful for finding out about things. They're not. It's in 4 years I've only had 2 units not pass.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's interesting.
Yeah. I'm happy to have an offline conversation with you, Sean, but I manage rental units. Um, and lead was the issue for small children. And it's a town where a lot of people don't have children. And once you explain to the owner of the property that if they abated the lead, they literally won't be in an argument about their that would be so negatively impactful on them from a financial standpoint. They understand what it is and they want to do it, or they add a second entrance, or they do a fire or something. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. One of the things that has happened with this program, as Alicia just said, is landlords like the fact that they're getting money. It's not everything, but they're getting a steady stream of cash from of money from the rental from the town, and they're willing to do what's needed to do to upgrade their unit.
Yeah. And both of
So
these units were not lead, they were egress.
yeah, egress issues. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting conundrum, isn't it, Sean?
Yeah, there is.
But it's and the egress issue is in many times it's making sure our guys are safe going in and going out should there be an emergency in the building. You want the resident to be safe, but you also want your emergency personnel to be safe too. So it's a interesting conundrum. But okay. Anything else on the update, Alicia?
No, that's pretty much it. It's going smoothly and there's always a little bit of getting everything pulled together because there's a lot of paperwork, but it's going very smoothly.
I haven't said it yet. This meeting, Alicia, thank you for all the paperwork you do and all the people you spend time with. I really
Yeah.
do. It's amazing, an amazing amount of effort and time. This brings us to the next item on our agenda is, and I don't know if anybody from the public has any comments about or questions about the rental assistance program. I don't see any hands. So I'm going to move on to the Devon's Crest Tenant Association request. And by way of introduction, I've thought a lot about this, but I don't know where to start the conversation. So I kind of want to put it out to the trust and say, how do you want to have this conversation? And one of the things I asked Alicia to look into, and you guys tell me if you want her to take a moment or two to do this, is when you start peeling back the onion and trying to understand what the request was, it breaks down to 114 total units, of which 35 have not been renovated. The other ones have. And those 35 units that haven't been renovated are presupposed to be affordable units after they're renovated. And the question I had was, how are they market rate units with vouchers, or are they going to be below market? How is that going to work? So I asked Alicia to do a quick presentation on how vouchers work. Would that be helpful for people? If not, we'll jump past it and it can come up as we talk.
I don't know. What,
Let's put it in our pocket, and if it comes up,
give us a little more detail, because
Mine's just 3 sentences.
Okay.
Go.
basically. So let me go
Go.
forward with it.
and
yeah,
go.
go.
There's two types of vouchers. There's state vouchers and there's federal vouchers. Probably many of the state vouchers come from federal money. So this is always a question about how much money is going to be there in the future. HUD has their Section 8. Everybody's probably familiar with Section 8. Which all tenants who get Section 8 pay 30% of their income towards their rental unit. So that's how it works. And a Section 8 is usually, now this I don't know. I think a Section 8 is at 60% AMI, nothing above 60% AMI. So it's not into the moderate
I'm sorry,
income,
what percent?
60.
Thank you.
6-0.
Yes. And what the program I don't know much about is the state's vouchers, which are Massachusetts Rental Voucher, and it's a MRVP program. And I don't know much about them. And I don't know where their funding source comes, but I do know that they also are at 60% AMI and that it's 30% of the tenant's income goes towards their portion of the rental price.
Of the rental price. So I'm gonna take a shot at making this in numbers. It doesn't make the unit cost less on a monthly basis. The resident of the unit, if they qualify, pay 30% of their income towards the rate to rent the unit, and the voucher picks up the difference. Is that another way of saying it? That's clear, Alicia? Did I get it right?
I believe
Go ahead,
that's right.
Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had employees who had vouchers. So that brings the question forward. Does a unit that is a market rate unit that has a voucher eligible person living in it, what happens if the voucher program changes?
So you have a deed restriction on the property. And if the town, so if the town were to give money towards this property, we would require a deed restriction. So there's those 35 units would have a deed restriction and could not be, I don't know how that happens, because if they can't sell it without a voucher, that's a good question. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to throw sand in the cogs here. But if you start thinking about the units, I do want more affordable housing units. But I kind of, and maybe I'm going too far into the weeds, but I want to understand that the offer we're getting for affordable units will help us, will help the town because the units remain affordable going into the future. And it's, if you all think about NOAA right now on the other project, the Ayer Commons project, and I'm not going to do apples and oranges here, just the other project we're aware of. One of the things they're working for is to get the tax credits they need and the vouchers they need to build those units and make them affordable.
Well, I think that Socket is
Yeah,
also looking at tax credits too.
exactly. So
To be
we've got
fair,
these.
I think that's and I think that we would have the same type of restrictions on NOAA as we would on Devon's Crest.
Yeah, I was going to use Ayers Commons and Devon's Crest, but exactly, yeah. So that to me, that's a question, and that is, do they? And I know Alicia had said deed restricted. It's a question I have. don't know enough about the process or the program. But
I think
we're being asked to consider something, and I don't know if it's forever or not, in perpetuity or not. And so
I
that
think
was a question I asked Alicia about the other day, is just to understand the voucher system. Sean, have you got anything you want to add to this? Excuse me, guys. I've got a tickle in my throat.
I walked away from the meeting with, I think, a lot more questions than answers. Specifically, and I'm welcome to anybody challenge this notion or this feeling, but out of 114 units, the bulk of them are going to be market rate at what they are now. And that's what they'll continue out with, a modest increase every year in rent. So that's what, $2,400 a month. That's not affordable, no matter what. That's like that. I was expecting something more along the lines of 1,800, which was the average, or a little less. But then that's a very big assumption that those 35 units, those folks are going to qualify for a voucher program, or not only qualify, but that they're going to get it. Those voucher programs are years long waiting list. I don't see how 35 families are going to skip over people that have been on a waiting list forever just to be able to stay in their apartments and make them affordable. So without a guarantee from the company that there's a subsidy that's not coming from just the town, but that there's a subsidy in case those people don't get a voucher, how do they maintain that as an affordable unit? And then the idea of, I'm skeptical that the state is willing to give funds for people to continue to live in or housing that's not up to code while they wait for people to move out of other housing so they can move over there while their buildings are being renovated. There was a lot of questions that just didn't seem to be answered. And it was a little disheartening as well to find out that the company that they're partnering with is a for-profit company.
So
Thank
I think that maybe, may I make a suggestion here? I think that a lot of people had questions, and I think the best way to go forward is to pool our questions, or to get together and to get our questions on paper. One of the things, I had an email from Carly and Robert because someone from Shockett was talking about if they do a 40B, if 25% of rentals are affordable, all of them get to count towards our SHI. So they were
Yes.
asking us about the SHI. Janet of the CPC and was Janet Pravadakis, and I were talking, and we were in agreement that the CPC already has an application for funding from the Devon Crest Association. And we could need to also put together a set of requirements. We don't usually pay out any money, CPC money or trust money, without papers being transferred, recorded deed restrictions, recorded marketing plans, and approval from HLC. HLC, yeah.
EOHLC, yeah.
Yeah, that's used to be Department of Housing and Community
Yeah.
Development, and it's now Housing of Livable Communities. So those are all the requirements that we would make before we funded any of this. And in that, we would have a deed restriction for maybe 99 years. We would have a requirement of how they're going to market those units each time they come available. And one of the things that I did not say is you can have vouchers that are tied to projects, and then you can have vouchers that are part of the waiting list, the grand waiting lists of the state and the federal government. And I'm not sure, and Sean, maybe you know better, how do project vouchers work?
No, actually, I didn't know that they're like, I'm not that familiar with project-based vouchers. I was operating under the assumption that it was all one pool of people. So that's pretty
Well,
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I do
Yeah.
think the project phase, because that's what the Air Commons project is talking about. They're talking about getting 16 project-based vouchers. And 16 is a lot of project-based vouchers, so 35 is even a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think they're talking about state ones, not federal ones.
Yeah, and if I may, I think where project-based vouchers came from, Sean, is that in order to incent people to build housing, they go with the property, not with the residents. And I have to look into that and figure it out, but I think that's what the quote unquote project base are. Because typically a resident applies into a Section 8 unit, qualifies financially, and just so you all know, the other question is the 35 units that are currently below market, will the people living there requalify to live there?
Well, that's what
It's
I'm
an
talking about with a
unknown.
marketing plan. A marketing
Yeah.
plan will actually, if my guess is a project based, and this is a guess, this is not, but my best estimate of this would be that a project based voucher, I know that you always have to have a marketing plan for a project like this.
Mhm.
So how you market that rental when it comes available and who is eligible, it might not go to an actual list. It might not go to the list. They might be able to do some of it internally. I'm not sure, Sean, but it's a good question.
Yeah.
Actually, just
and-
knowing that the idea of project-based and, that kind of alleviates some of my concern, and the fact that, yes, 35 is a substantial amount of affordable housing, even if the rest of the units aren't quite as affordable.
Yeah. And I will also let you all know that Devon's Presidents Association isn't at this meeting, and neither is Connie Sullivan or any other representative for them. But they have asked to join our next meeting. So I think it's us getting together our questions is probably sorry I didn't start the conversation with this, but that's the other thing is we may be in a situation where we get our questions answered, and as Alicia said, we need to put our questions together. So June 25th would be the next time we actually see the DCTA to get these questions answered. And I don't know, Sean, if they can, if they're going to be able to provide the level of confidence. I see there's a lot of moving parts, and I don't know how to see our way through. That may surprise some people, but I don't know. Any other
Things
go ahead. Yeah, of course.
So one of the things that we can do is set our terms and our requirements. And I think we should be looking at the 35 units that we consider truly affordable, require that there be 60% AMI, require that the tenant, Chris, did you want to say something?
Go ahead, Chris. You're muted, Chris.
Can you unmute him, Jeff?
I don't know. No, there he is.
Sorry about that.
Hey, no
Technical
worries.
challenge. It slid to the left. The option to unmute myself. I just, I mean, speaking openly and freely here, I am a landlord of a couple extremely modest properties in Shirley. Just looking at this from like a landlord opportunity perspective, you could practically feel and see the opportunity. The people that were presenting the deal in the last meeting salivating over the opportunity to be able to do this. It really makes me wonder why, but not so much if you think about it from their perspective and what it is that they may be able to benefit. If they can double their rents with half of that money guaranteed from the state, and then also put an opportunity to improve their properties, so adding even more value to, properties that maybe need improvements, and then have the town fund the deposit necessary to finance those improvements. What? through a like they said, what, donate or give them $5,000 per unit in order to be able to transfer these to affordable housing. I mean, it's like money on top of money on top of them being able to improve the property, charge more, and then they only want to stay in the deal for 10 years or something like that before then they get paid out, which also means that they want to be able to finance this and they're looking for a huge payout at that time too. If something's really working out, why would you bother to refinance it like that? I don't know. It doesn't sound right for a lot of different reasons. But then again, I also am speaking from a place of naiveness in how the entire affordable housing program runs in general. So I do want to caveat that statement. I don't know everything, but at face value, that's what it felt like. And I would
Sorry.
be willing to write down a few of those thoughts if that would help to,
Yeah, and Chris, I know you're not currently a member of the trust, still working on that for us, but as a member of the community of Ayer, this is money that 3% of your tax bill, brother, is going into this project. We're all putting money in at the rate of 3% on our tax bills every year. So you gotta voice as loud as anybody else, honestly. So it would be very helpful if you want to put this into and bring it up at the next meeting. Because I mean,
I'll articulate it a little bit better. I was just shooting from the hip.
No, that's better than I could do, but I really do appreciate it. I mean, I don't know about the rest of the trust, but I'll tell you, I appreciate it because we're all going to come with our background and perspective on this. We're here because we want affordable housing. But we want affordable housing that is going to be good, that's going to be there now and into the future. Yeah, Alicia, you put your hand up?
Yes, I wanted to tell you what the value is. So even if we just talk about the 35 units that we know will be affordable and will be deed restricted and will have vouchers, 35 vouchers in the town is wildly valuable. Okay. And there's two different types of value. Vouchers within the town really help your residents. So a $5,000 commitment to each of those vouchers is a very good deal. Okay. Those vouchers will really house a lot of families who are working class families and just need some help paying their rent. And I work with a lot of
Excuse me, Alicia.
Yes.
You just dropped out for a moment there. You said working class families, and I didn't hear you.
that really need help paying their rent. Now, the other value to the town is when our SHI list and when I'm using acronyms, okay, subsidized housing inventory is at 10%, we're eligible for more grants. So we also open up grant opportunities for the town. So on those two things, if you look at this as the 35 really affordable units and those 35 vouchers, those have value. What the deal is and who the players are, that's why I was suggesting that we talk about what our parameters would be for us to be partners. What do we require? We require deed restrictions. We require a marketing plan. We require, that it's been approved by, mass housing, livable communities, housing department, all those kinds of things, which get it on the SHI list. Those are the things that we would require. And my guess is that we're talking about the 35 units that really will be affordable.
Yeah, and then if you take a look at it, then their ask is $500,000, which is 114 roughly times 5,000. If we take the 35 units at a $5,000 ask, it's 175,000. So it's a portion of the $500,000 that they're asking for. But that's just the number side of it. I don't want that to, Chris, like you, I'm shooting from the hip and I'm trying to figure it all out. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
I understand that
at
it's
the end of the
valuable
day,
from like a town perspective, but
yeah,
it's far more valuable for them if they can double the rents. Um, you know,
Well, they
receiving
won't be able to double
175.
the rents on the affordable units. That'll be
So,
set, a set rent by the state.
so they're renting for what, about 1,300
No,
now?
they'll probably rent for it. They'll be going for what the going number is in the town. Now, and they do have other, um, that's a formula that I can't give you right now. It's a pretty complex formula. They were looking at the rents being higher because we're part of Cambridge District.
we're in Middlesex County. Yeah, we're in
Yeah.
Middlesex County. Yeah, we're Middlesex
Um,
South.
but they also take in the factor of how far out we are, what are the other market rate in town, and that's what Ron brought up at
Mhm.
the meeting. That market rate in the town is for a two-bedroom is between 16 and 1800 dollars. So
Which
$2,400 is a little bit high.
which puts, but it also probably begs the, I don't know what the current 35 units are going for. I was under the impression it was closer to 13,000, in the $13,000 range,
Hundred.
$1,300 range per month.
They're
Yeah.
actually right now, they're
I think
renting
they're
at
going for less
900
than
still
that.
for, they
So
have
they're at
not.
900 a month. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean,
So
to
that would be
Chris's
almost a
point, they
doubling.
would double
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
They would be able to double it from what they currently are.
Yeah.
exactly. I mean,
But I do like,
guys,
oops, sorry.
go ahead.
I was
No,
just
go
gonna say,
ahead.
I do think what Alicia's saying though, with being able to put on strict parameters, um, it it makes it a little bit easier. Um, but yeah, I think them coming back to our next meeting will be good.
Yeah. And one of the things I got thinking about, Sean, is, and don't get me wrong, do we have the skill set sitting at this table right now to be able to put this together?
No,
Do we need to
Thank you,
make
Cindy.
another budget category called legal? But go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just gonna agree with Cindy.
Yeah. I mean, I know when I'm over my head, guys.
just,
It's like, yeah,
replace me, because this is completely above my pay grade.
So, so we just did this with the Habitat House and we've done it multiple times. What happens is when we do these restrictions, we work with the state, we work with the town, and we work with the town legal department
yeah,
to review all our restrictions. And what I will come with next time is basically the restrictions are when will you transfer the money? You've got to decide that. And we never transfer the money until the deed restrictions are in place, the vouchers are in place, and the marketing plan is in place, and record it. And then
yeah,
we transfer the money. So
yeah. And I'm gonna ask two questions. Make one statement and ask one question now, just to kind of keep everybody's heads exploding. The statement is there has been a request from the Devon's Crest Tenants Association to CPC for $500,000. So they've already gone forward and put in an application to request the money that they've asked for the 114 units. I'm assuming, have not seen the request. I saw Janet on the way into a meeting last night. She said, I got a request today or yesterday for the 500,000. So that horse has left the barn to a certain extent. But the other side of the coin is, as we look at this, when you did habitat and stuff like that, what jumps to my mind is this something that can be grant funded through MRPC? And does MRPC have the skill set to do this?
no, we go with our own counsel on this.
Okay.
Because this is a legal document between
Yeah.
the town
Okay.
and whether here's the question, whether we need a little more administration, whether Robert's got enough money in legal to cover this. But they did for Habitat, they do. It depends on how many deed restrictions we're doing. They'll
Yeah.
be all duplicate because some of them are separate properties.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm curious now. So if they went on their own to CBC,
Yeah.
is that just removing us from the equation? Or is CPC going to come back to us and ask us for?
It's an interesting. How are your football analogies?
Not very
End
good.
run. End run is what I thought of when I found that out. I don't know. Or being boxed in would be the other one.
I wouldn't say it that way because to tell you the truth, CPC gets voted on by the town.
Yes,
The trust money is your guys' vote.
exactly. And Pauline, if you'll wait a moment, um, as you all saw in the budget, I'm going to say it out loud. If we decided to say we love the 35 units at $5,000 a piece, guys, we could do it. We have the cash. Whether we did it or not and got through the details would be something totally different. But I think, Sean, it's an interesting question, isn't it? It's almost like, thank you very much for listening to us talk. And by the way, we're going to go off and do something else. I'll be honest, my ego's not in the game, Sean. I'm not going to get angry about that because again, it's such an unknown to me to a certain extent. But they also have to get it done. They're on the same schedule, and waiting for us to have 3 meetings puts them in July, which really jams them up because they've got to get their hearing done in August
Well,
for the September
Melanie,
meeting.
so does CPC then do the same thing? Would they come to you and ask for assistance in creating these parameters?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe that will happen either way.
We've already
have
been
us-
talking about it.
We'll have a seat at that table, I believe, to answer your question, Sean. Pauline, if you don't mind, Cindy's put her hand up and she's a member of the trust. Cindy, can I ask you to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Pauline had her hand up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I actually asked her a moment ago. I thought, okay, thanks, Cindy. Hey, Paul, excuse me, Pauline,
Thank
you got
you.
the floor. No worries.
you,
I appreciate your
Mr. Chair.
patience.
Um,
Yeah.
small comments. I do believe y'all need to at least meet with CPC about the proposal for 50 or what, $500,000 for the Devon's Crest Tenants Association. And I am by no means suggesting we should not do that, but I think there are a lot of parameters involved. But I also want to remind everybody on this committee, the town has gone on record, it will not fund. I don't know what the words are, so I just want to share this as benignly as possible. They will not fund saving these houses. And I have a mixed emotion about that because of my involvement with Habitat. But please go back and talk with Robert Pomprier,
Yeah.
because he was very, very vocal when Devon's Crest was sold a couple years ago. And so I just want to make sure we do what is best for everybody in the town, not just the residents of Devon Crest, but the taxpayers as well. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pauline. I think that is I think that's a good point. Very sanguine point, because if we do remember back when Devon's Crest and in broad strokes, if the town took over Devon's Crest, everyone had to move out because it was substandard housing. And that just became, if you think about that, A, take it by eminent domain, which requires the town to do it, but B, even if it actually happened, we would disenfranchise every person living there right away. We'd unhome them because of the way the laws are written and what would have to happen. And I think Schachter's offering us a path to getting to affordable. Before we close this out, any other comments people might have? And I would make a request that, sorry?
It's shock it.
Shock it. I'm sorry. It's been a long week. I'm sorry, Cindy. And last night's meeting went very late too.
Oh, I
Um,
know. I know.
yeah. So anything else that's pressing on people to bring up at this point? And I would ask that our next meeting is June 25th, and DCTA is going to be there. So let's come prepared to ask the questions we've got and figure it out. And the last thing I'll share with you all is I didn't realize I was doing this. About a week ago, in the presentation, they asked for locking in the assessed values at 2025 limits. So I wanted to figure out what that meant from a tax standpoint. If we're going to give 10 years of property tax growth, that's a soft cost, but it's a real cost to the town. And so I sent the town a request. I didn't realize it was a request for information request. And we can't enter into an agreement with somebody about taxation that's solely on the select board's shoulders. So that's not ours to, we can impact it by saying we want it or don't want it, but we can't make it happen, number one. And number two is, we don't know what 114 units, what does that mean if we lock their value at this year's assessment? And if you grew it at 2.5% per year for 10 years or whatever the time period was, that's going to be lost tax revenue to the town. And I think that's an important piece of the puzzle because, we are a well-run town, but let's not give up. I mean, I don't even know as a percentage what the portion of money would be, but that's a cost. It's a real cost. So yeah, go ahead, Alicia.
So just to outline again, a deed restricted unit usually has a lower assessment because it has a lower value.
Agreed.
The deed creates a lower value on that property.
Agreed.
So for the 35 units that are deed restricted, there is room to consider that it's a lower value. People who buy an affordable condo get a lower assessment because they have a lower value in their real estate. But once again, we need to talk about the 35 units, not the 114.
Exactly. However, if I'm not mistaken, and believe it or not, I'm old enough to remember the 2.5 fight a long, long time ago. And I was involved in a warrant committee at the time looking at taxation. Even a deed restricted unit is a lower market assessment, but that assessment does move forward every year. And it never goes at 2.5, and I can explain it ad nauseum. What we're losing is that incremental increase in taxable value every year for 114 units for the period of time that they're asking for the taxes to be locked in. I'm going to guess that becomes a fairly sizable chunk of change. If it's $1,000 in the first year, it's $114,000 lost to the town in revenue. It's a couple of firemen, it's a couple of cops, it's a couple of cars, it's a couple of things. But that's what I'm talking about. We can't enter into that. And I don't know if we'll ever get a satisfactory answer about that. Cool. Any other comments on this item before we jump to the next piece? I'm going to say we're going to close the discussion, Devon's Rest Tenants Association request at this point. We have two more things on the agenda for this evening before public comment. One is the trust reorganization and members up for reappointment. Alicia, were you able to get the years? Okay.
But I will
No
send
worries,
it
kid.
to,
No
I'll
worries.
send an email. I was just looking at that and saying, so
Yeah.
I will send an email just for your information email about
Yeah.
who's up for reappointment.
Exactly. And as you know, some of you are at-large members. Sean is a member representing this Board of Selectmen, the Board of Select people. I'm a current member representing the Planning Board. Cindy, are you CPC? No, that's Colleen Creaser. She's
No, I
CPC
am not. I am a
at large.
whatever.
Yeah, you're an at large.
Mhm.
So what Alicia and I were trying to figure out is who's got what and what boards have to reappoint us. So we'll get those and what years people need to be reappointed at. Um, and so it's not on the website of all crazy things. We couldn't find it easily, so we have to ask that question. So hopefully somebody will happily step forward since for chair next time around, but we need to get figured out who needs what reappointment so we can keep the trust moving forward. And secondly, goals. Do we want to add any goals to what we've done in the past, in what we've been doing and where we're going? Um, DCTA is going to take a bunch of our attention right now, and I'm not sure there are any goals that we are at a point yet where we can jump in and do. I mean, it's we're building the bank in order to hopefully purchase or create more affordable housing. But I'm kind of wondering if we're ever going to catch up given what's going on with housing pricing here in town these days. But that's me. Somebody else say something positive if you have it, please. So if you have any input on goals, please bring it to the next meeting and we'll start putting that together. Lastly, any open public comment? Anybody else interested in having anything to join? Okay. Seeing none. I'm going to ask for our upcoming meetings are June 25th and July 30th, last Wednesdays of the month. Excuse me, we're already on the calendar and we'll get agendas in soon so we have those dates locked in. With that being said, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Sean. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. We're holding back. Have a wonderful time all. Meeting is adjourned at 7. Oh, all in favor of adjournment. Please say aye. Aye. Thank you.